Hello, everyone. Once again, on behalf of the AMCHAM, welcome to day one of the 2022 HSSE Conference and National Awards. Let's first answer the question directly. What is a public-private partnership to begin with? We'd keep it simple. It's a symbiotic relationship. The earliest of examples or use of the phrase symbiotic relationship is found in Darwinism when referring to the circle of life. I think its origin is an appropriate anecdote when speaking on disaster resilience. Two entities, public and private sectors, reliant on each other for survival. Must seem a bit dramatic, but the topic at hand is disaster resilience. The Swiss cheese modeling technique illustrates the perfection of imperfection, as everything goes perfectly wrong. Disasters are not convenient nor pursuant of the grammatically correct. They can emerge from an extremely wide range of initiators.
And we don't have to think very far back for a reference point. Just a year ago, we were not able to share in this very space. And it would have been completely remiss of me to not acknowledge the over 4,000 of our citizens and over 6 million globally who have fallen, and those who rose to the occasion in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in preparing for this panel discussion, I found myself reflecting on a talk I delivered in 2010 at the Energy Exchange Conference in Amsterdam, where I spoke on risk management, of which business continuity is a control. I was asked the question, what is the basic construct of a BCP? The question was an academic one, but received a philosophical response. I answered, business continuity is about understanding your business. This non-academic response fed conversation much more than a technical answer would have. And today, I observe business continuity in a much more dynamic way. This because you cannot achieve resilience by deploying a singular view to any risk we may be trying to treat. It demands a public-private partnership. And though we reference COVID-19, this is but only one example that we've drawn from. And it's a low probability, high consequence event. It's a black swan. A couple simple examples would be calling for an ambulance, the fire department, the police, Ministry of Works, TNTech or TSTT. It's unavoidable, this symbiosis. I invite you to ponder on a value chain. Environmental social governance or ESG, corporate social responsibility or CSR, and business continuity programs or BCP are the pinnacle of a public-private partnership. As if we were to dissect their biology, we would recognize the dependency of these ecosystems to one another and their role in disaster resilience. The risks making up a great portion of a company's BCP outside of the unique internal threats are either community-born or impacting the community and stakeholders directly. Would it therefore not be logical for business continuity, corporate social responsibility, environmental social governance to be a legislated obligation versus the philanthropic space it currently resides in? One cannot achieve resilience without the other. Now, governments, national and local, state, province, or municipalities around the world, including right here in Trinidad and Tobago, have made the provision for such a framework through licenses to operate, environmental clearances, risk management policy, business continuity regulations, essential services laws, and through incentives by way of green funds and the like. Now, though still evolving, I think we can all recognize that there are limitations, some self-imposed, in the present model domestically. And given the continued pleas by government to the private sector, it compounds a need for bridging, and thus this being a very relevant subject at this year's conference. So let's talk about some of those self-imposed limitations. A lack of will, for whatever reason, feeding arrogance. Arrogance is often fed by ignorance, or vice versa, but most dangerously gaslit by what I call billboard academia, ignoring the risk to a sustainable and stable economic profile. Now, speaking of which, we then get a more tangible causal factors in there not being or not having sufficient or enforced economic tethers, either in consequence or incentive, leaving hope to be the driver. But as one of my operations managers, Shashi Maharaj, would say, hope is not a strategy. And this is a consequence of poor regulations. I think for many, the relevance of the topic became obvious in a most unexpected manner, such as when ESG and CSR and BCP topics began being driven by marketing divisions as opposed to technical disciplines. The result, greenwashing, which of course leads to subjectivity due to a non-scientific approach and the inevitable non-productive nor progressive inconsistency, resulting in Party A and Party B, etc., kicking the can down the road and accountabilities remaining undefined or not enforced. But what if we stopped kicking the can down the road and we observe the relations as defined in the value chain as our reality, which they are? What would that construct look like? Now, if you can imagine the honeycomb, engineered by a life-giving species and to which modern architecture continues to be influenced, it is of no surprise then that the utopian structure I propose emulates the work of one of nature's greatest constructors. Interlinked, an enterprise legislative framework driving local government mandates. Lenders and underwriters' policies that communicate risk control and resilience prerequisites. Large, medium, and SME tiered obligations for community investment. All structures to support a BCP, ESG, CSR set of standards that introduce a self-governing and sustainable resilience into our communities. This is not idealistic. This is happening now. The ARISE committee, represented by both public and the private sectors, is working to deliver the UNDRR, or United Nations, Risk Reduction and Resilience 2015 Sendai Framework. Now, my colleagues will speak more from the government and the private sector perspectives, illustrate proven examples from here and around the world, and echo a necessary call to action. But for us at Stork, it was in the height of the pandemic that we birthed our revitalized corporate social responsibility program, a risk treatment identified in our BCP and that which feeds directly into our ESG program. Now, we are still learning, but that's the point, to be a learning entity and deploy continuous improvement as a core value. It is what we're doing, and when we fail, because we stand the risk of failing, we fail forward. I'm confident that some may think this to be an oversimplification of a complex relationship. But why does it have to be complex? And let's just say at the end of the day, it's not an easy task. Isn't that even all the more the reason to get it done? The question is always the same from those who lack the motivation. How do we begin? Well, to begin, begin. And if you're still asking yourself why, as a very good friend of mine, Matthew Andre Jones, would say, when we speak on raising our children the right way, we have no choice. Thank you.